Today, I'm diving straight into one of the most baffling cases I've ever come across, a disappearance that has lingered in our minds for nearly 2 decades. I'm talking about Brianna Maitland, a 17-year-old with a promising future who vanished without a trace on March 19, 2004. I believe the truth behind her story deserves clear, direct understanding without endless fluff or overly technical details. In this video, I'm breaking down her background, what led up to her disappearance, the eerie events of that mysterious day, and everything that law enforcement has uncovered or speculated over the years. The story is filled with unexpected twists and cautious investigations that still leave many questions unanswered. Every element from her life, from her early training in Jiu-Jitsu to the unsettling moments before her final shift at the Black Lantern Inn, plays a part in this narrative. I'm here to give you a comprehensive look at Brianna Maitland's case in a relatable, conversational style so you can follow along with every intriguing detail and mystery. Let's get right into this captivating story and see what secrets it may still hold. Stick with me as we uncover each twist and try to decipher what happened. I grew up hearing fragments of Brianna Maitland's early life, and her story starts in Burlington, Vermont. Born on October 8, 1986, to Bruce and Kelly Maitland, her childhood was a mix of rural charm and the promise of independence. Raised on her family's farm in East Franklin, she experienced both the simplicity of farm life and the discipline it brought. I found it fascinating that even from a young age, Brianna was drawn to self-defense. She trained extensively in Jiu-Jitsu, a pursuit that would eventually highlight her strength and resilience. Despite the rustic settings, she also had a vibrant period of schooling, initially attending Missisquoi Valley Union High School before transferring to Enosburg Falls High School during her sophomore year. This move wasn't just about changing schools. It represented a step towards exploring new dimensions of her personality and confronting a broader world beyond the farm. Her early years were marked by a blend of hard work on the family land and a desire for friends and freedom beyond the boundaries of rural living. I always admired her decision to balance her responsibilities with an eagerness to experience life differently. As Brianna grew older, her vision for a future independent from everything she had known took shape. She started to see that stability sometimes meant sacrificing personal independence, and she eventually craved a life that allowed her more autonomy. This longing played a significant role in shaping her decisions later on, pushing her towards opportunities that promised a departure from the familiarity of her upbringing. It's a stark reminder of how important personal freedom was to her. Her journey from a sheltered life on the farm to a life seeking unpredictability marks a critical chapter in understanding what might have driven the events that followed. Understanding Brianna's push for independence wasn't simple. Every decision she made was balanced by hope and fear, reflecting the struggles of many young people. Her move was more than relocating. It was a transformative leap into a world full of promise yet uncertainty. Let me take you through the events that led up to Brianna's fateful disappearance. Events that marked her transformation from a typical teenager into someone risking everything for freedom. Brianna's 17th birthday in October 2003 marked a pivotal moment. I recall that she made a conscious decision to break away from her parents' farm, determined to forge her own path. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment whim. It was a deliberate move fueled by a deep desire for self-determination and independence. Seeking a life that allowed her personal freedom, she began living with different friends and shifting between temporary homes, each move representing her pursuit of a more autonomous lifestyle. I know that feeling, the urge to break free and explore a life beyond the familiar, and it resonates deeply when you read about her choices. Just a few weeks before she vanished, a party became a turning point in her life. At this event, Brianna found herself embroiled in a heated confrontation with a former friend, Kelly Lacrosse. Despite her solid jiu-jitsu training, Brianna chose not to escalate the conflict, a decision that ultimately left her vulnerable. In that charged moment, the altercation escalated and she was physically attacked. I've learned that she suffered a broken nose and a concussion during the fight. Although legal charges were eventually dropped, the impact of that incident lingered, adding to the stress and emotional turmoil already present in her life. Every challenge she faced, every push towards independence, and every painful confrontation seems to have built up a tension that made the months leading up to her disappearance extraordinarily turbulent. I can imagine the mixture of hope and fear in her heart as she navigated these choppy waters. The struggle to balance her newfound freedom with the risks of vulnerability created a fragile, unstable equilibrium in her life. Looking back, it feels like all the pieces of her story were aligning for a momentous yet tragic turn of events. Each setback, each difficult decision, added layers to her complex personality, preparing her for a journey that, regrettably, ended in unanswered questions. The story of these events is a sobering reminder that the pursuit of independence is often fraught with unforeseen dangers and painful consequences. That chain of events not only defined her steps at the time, but also set the stage for the mystery that still grips us today. I can't help but wonder how these challenging moments, full of both hope and despair, eventually led to a situation where Brianna vanished without explanation. Let me recount the day Brianna vanished in as much clear detail as possible. On Friday, March 19, 2004, Brianna started her day with determination. That morning, she took an exam required for her GED. I imagine her feeling hopeful about her future after that test. After the exam, she celebrated briefly with her mother by having a meal, an ordinary moment that belied the storm that was about to uproot her life. While shopping later, something outside caught her attention, and you could almost sense a shift in her mood. In that moment, she grew visibly shaken, though she didn't fully explain why. Instead, she decided she needed to hurry home to prepare for her shift at the Black Lantern Inn in Montgomery, Vermont. After a brief stop at her friend Jillian's house, where she left a note promising she would return after work, Brianna got into her 1985 Oldsmobile sedan. With quiet determination, she set out to fulfill her work duties. I know this might seem routine, but it truly was the calm before the storm. Around 11:20 p.m., after finishing her shift, she left the restaurant with plans to get some rest before her next job in St. Albans. It appears she was alone when she drove off, and no one anticipated any impending danger. Every detail of that day takes on a deeper, more haunting quality when you look back. The simple errands, the subtle change in her mood, and her solitary drive combine into an ominous sequence of events. What exactly happened during that final drive remains a mystery. It's as if time froze between her leaving the restaurant and her disappearance. I feel a chill thinking about those last minutes when no call or message came, only the silent departure that led to questions still unanswered. It's both puzzling and heartbreaking that Brianna's absence went unreported for days. Her loved ones assumed she was staying at a friend's place until worry began mounting. When her car was eventually found, it was positioned oddly, backed into the side of an abandoned house about a mile away from the Black Lantern Inn. Details like the arrangement of the car and the items left inside paint an eerie picture of that night. Every small fact from that day now seems like a vital clue in a puzzle that remains unsolved, leaving us to wonder what really happened on that unforgettable night. Thinking back on that day, I'm struck by how ordinary moments turned into extraordinary mysteries. Every minor detail, the time, the locations, and even the items left in her car, carries weight when you realize none of them add up to a simple explanation. After Brianna's car was discovered the following day, the investigation took on a puzzling twist that continues to haunt those involved. Early on March 20th, a Vermont State Police trooper found her 1985 Oldsmobile backed into the side of an abandoned house known as the Old Dutchburn House. Inside the vehicle, investigators discovered a jumble of personal items, including paychecks, her ATM card, glasses, contact lens case, and even some loose change. At first, many thought it was an accident caused by a drunk driver. I find it odd that such a chaotic scene could be dismissed so easily, as it left behind an unsettling number of unanswered questions. As hours turned into days, Brianna's disappearance was not reported immediately by her friends and family. It wasn't until days later that concern grew enough for a missing persons report to be filed. I believe that this delay only added to the complexity of the case, as every passing day made the mystery more profound. Along with the delayed report came numerous witness sightings and tips that both intrigued and confused investigators. Several individuals reported seeing her car's headlights on near the abandoned house late at night. One even recalled a flashing turn signal in the darkness. Each of these small details contributed to the overall enigma. Authorities also received an anonymous tip that Brianna was being held captive by local drug dealers. Investigators raided a rental house in nearby Berkshire, which was known to be frequented by individuals with a shady reputation, including two men named Ramon L. Ryans and Nathaniel Charles Jackson. The raid uncovered large amounts of drugs and drug paraphernalia, but no trace of Brianna. There was even an affidavit from an anonymous woman alleging that Brianna was murdered and that her body was dismembered and disposed of on a pig farm. Although the claims were graphic, law enforcement could not substantiate these allegations. I find it hard to believe that such a detailed story would emerge if it wasn't tied to real events, yet the evidence simply did not align. Another twist in the investigation was the connection some speculated between Brianna's case and that of serial killer Israel Keys, who was active in the area. In 2012, the FBI and state police looked into this possibility, but ultimately Keys was ruled out as a suspect. Even after this, investigators continued to examine every lead. In March 2016, on the 12th anniversary of her disappearance, local authorities revealed that DNA samples from Brianna's car had been recovered, though the results were not made public. Then, in March 2022, police stated they had found a match to the DNA sample. They confirmed that the DNA belonged to one individual who had been cooperative with the investigation. The investigation has involved many twists, anonymous tips, and plenty of dead ends that leave you questioning what really happened. Every piece of evidence seems to raise more questions than it answers, fueling the debate on whether Brianna became a runaway or fell victim to a more sinister plot. Over the years, Brianna's case has drawn significant attention from media outlets and the public alike. High-profile television networks and documentary series have dug into her story, each adding new theories and renewed energy towards solving the mystery. I've seen segments on Dateline NBC and Investigation Discovery's Disappeared, where every detail was revisited with a fresh perspective. One particularly intriguing moment was a security footage capture from a casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey, showing a woman who resembled Brianna. Although she was never officially identified, that sighting sparked endless discussions and debates online. In addition to television features, her disappearance has been mentioned on mainstream shows like 2020, further underlining its impact. Documentaries, podcasts, and even a recently published book have all contributed to keeping Brianna's story alive in the public consciousness. Every retelling brings attention to the unresolved elements of her case, and each new recounting offers a unique angle on what might have transpired. Reflecting on Brianna Maitland's story, I find myself searching for answers alongside her family and community. Every detail, every unanswered question fuels our determination to understand what happened. Though there are still countless mysteries surrounding her disappearance, discussing her case reminds us that every life matters. I urge anyone with even the smallest piece of information to share it, as it could be the key to finally solving this case. Let's continue to spread awareness, engage in honest conversation, and never give up hope that one day Brianna's truth will be uncovered.